Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Ken S. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Somehow, some have still been questioning Grok's value in a car, so here is just one use case.
His native language is Hebrew. My native language is English. So anytime you hear English, I would like you to translate that to Hebrew. And anytime you hear Hebrew, I would like you to translate that to English. So we're on our way to the Tesla diner. Are you able to tell me about how far it is?
It's about 6.4 miles from here. Shouldn't take too long. Want me to translate that for Ali? זה כשיש נקודה 4 מגיע למכן. לא אמור לקחת יותר מדי זמן.
מגניב, סבבה. אני מבסוט, אני מחכה. בינתיים אנחנו בסך הכל יושבים, לא נוגעים בהגה, נותנים לטסלה לנהוג לבד. FSD עושה את כל העבודה. יאללה, בואו נלך לדיינר, אני רעב.
Okay, cool. Ali's stoked and waiting. Just chilling while the Tesla drives itself. No hands on the wheel. Zero effort. He says, let's hit a diner. I'm starving.
So for robotaxis in the future, once this rolls out and is available via the rear screen and or in the app, to give customers and people visiting from abroad the ability to interact in their native language is pretty cool. First up, we have what I believe to be an eye roller of a proposal from the EPA. The proposal is to rescind the 2009 endangerment finding. If finalized, the proposal would repeal all resulting greenhouse gas emission regulations for motor vehicles and engines. The proposal would rescind the 2009 endangerment finding, and if finalized, the proposal would repeal all resulting greenhouse gas emissions regulations for motor vehicles and engines. They're saying, we heard loud and clear the concern that the EPA's GHG emissions standards themselves, not the carbon dioxide, which the finding never assessed independently, was the real threat to Americans' livelihoods. So they're quite literally saying, no, it's not the greenhouse gas emissions that are causing problems, but rather it was the greenhouse gas emissions standards that are causing the problems for Americans. Their argument, of course, is higher costs for certain things thanks to all of the regulations that came about from that endangerment finding. In short, all you need to know, that endangerment finding was the legal prerequisite used by the Obama and Biden administrations to regulate emissions from new motor vehicles and new motor vehicle engines. So now, if this proposal is finalized, they're going to repeal all of the greenhouse gas standards. And they'd be doing that for all light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles and heavy-duty engines. And then it gets even more ridiculous. They said the Obama EPA found carbon dioxide emissions emitted from cars, in combination with 5 other gases, contribute some unspecified amount to climate change, which in turn creates some unspecified amount of endangerment to human health and welfare. And they go on to call those findings mental leaps. So what's the truth about this? Well, we know that greenhouse gas emissions from transportation accounts for about 28% of the total US greenhouse gas emissions, which, by the way, makes it the largest contributor of GHG emissions. First, if there's any silver lining here, it's that this only covers greenhouse gases, so one, we need to know what falls under that category. From the 2009 endangerment finding, that would be carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, and sulfur hexafluoride. And frankly, when it comes to vehicle greenhouse gas standards, they mostly focus on the first 4. And then separately, there are other pollutants that come from automobiles that do cause many health issues that are still going to be regulated even if this proposal is finalized. So again, even if all of the greenhouse gas rules are rescinded, the following will still remain regulated for vehicles: carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, non-methane organic gases, and formaldehyde. And oftentimes when you hear about many of these health issues, including cardiovascular problems and lung disease, Much of that stems specifically from the particulate matter, which Elon has mentioned a few times in the past. Usually that's just fine particles from diesel exhaust, so the good news is that is still going to be regulated. And they're saying they have some new studies that might challenge some of these 2009 findings when it comes to the actual dangers of greenhouse gases. But for me, until proven otherwise, I still think this is largely politically motivated. There are stakeholders like the American Trucking Association and many other small businesses that have been endorsing this new proposal just so they can get cost relief. But overall, right now, if you look broadly at all of the different studies, I think the mainstream consensus would still affirm that greenhouse gases have a lot of risks associated with them, not just for the environment, but for our health as well. And listen, I'm certainly not a global warming expert by any stretch of the imagination, but just looking at some studies, among the most compelling GHG reduction measures proposed are those with economic, social, and/or health co-benefits. So in summary, this proposal is not as horrific as some are believing right now, thinking that emissions like particulate matter are no longer going to be regulated at all, which is not the case. But if you're of the camp that believes greenhouse gas emissions are indeed bad for the environment and over time will lead to more dramatic climate events and other negative outcomes, then this is still certainly a very negative proposal from that standpoint. But I just want to make it very clear, this rescinding of all greenhouse gas standards, if this is finalized, will not impact the regulation of those pollutants that most directly and most severely are known to harm human health. Those will still be regulated. I told you guys I wanted to be more authentic with these, so here you go. I'll answer some questions I've been getting because I have gamified my health, and for me it makes everything a lot more enjoyable. And just FYI, this is all super easy nowadays and takes less than 5 minutes every day total to track everything. I do get my own blood work done regularly. I order my own tests and go to a local ACL. I track everything I eat so I can easily pull levers depending on my goals, and here's a sample day of eating on the screen. I'll add notes like my energy levels for the day and my daily step count, and I do track my weight every morning. And as someone who likes to get scientific with all of this, I will absolutely continue taking AG1 Next Gen, the sponsor of this video. And what I've learned is despite eating the rainbow and focusing on a nutrient-rich whole food diet, I'm still not getting enough superfoods, adaptogens, and probiotics that are offered in AG1's Next Gen formula. These are sourced from less common plants like algae, mushrooms, and fermented sources. So despite me eating berries, leafy greens, and veggies, I would not be getting things like organic spirulina, organic chlorella, organic wheatgrass, or alfalfa leaf powders. I would not be getting adaptogens like ashwagandha root, astragalus root, milk thistle, or reishi, or shiitake mushroom powder. And that is not an exhaustive list. And when I travel or have days where the fridge is empty because life gets busy, AG1's Next Gen keeps all of my levels up thanks to the 75 vitamins, minerals, and probiotics in every serving. So check it out for yourself for a few months and see what you think. You can head to drinkag1.com/electrified, or you can use my QR code on the screen to get 5 travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D3 K2 for free. We got another Robotaxi service update, and they're saying short rides now cost less with dynamic pricing, but this also means that longer rides now also cost more. So the days of the fixed fees, whether $4.20 or $6.90, are now over for Tesla Robotaxis. Tesla Chan is in Austin and gave us this chart showing us different distances and the fee that Tesla was going to charge for that Robotaxi ride. So I just threw those into a spreadsheet real quick and calculated the cost per mile for each ride. The first obvious trend, and one that should be expected, the shorter the ride, the higher the cost per mile. And as the distance of the trip increases, the cost per mile decreases. But just to keep things simple, if you take the average of all of these cost per miles across these 9 trips, you get an average cost per mile of $1.96. However, I want to make a a huge disclaimer here, you're going to see a lot of calculations like this over the next few days, but remember, it's dynamic pricing. What that means, it's always going to be changing. So whether it's based on the time of day, or the pickup location, or the drop-off location, there's absolutely going to be some fluidity to this pricing, and things are definitely going to change over time as Tesla gathers more data. But this is a big step for Tesla to create its own pricing structure that it'll likely use as it begins its expansion into other cities. And don't fixate on this super small sample size average of $1.96 per mile, because that could be different if these prices were calculated in the evening right now instead of in the morning at 8:30. And part of the reason I said the pickup and drop-off location might impact pricing is because of this one data point. You can see the distance to Franklin Barbecue was 3 miles and to Aloft Austin South was 2.8 miles. The ETA for both of these rides was 17 minutes, but the shorter trip, the one that was 2.8 miles, actually cost more. That ride was $6.16 compared to $5.30 for the longer ride. So just keep in mind, there are other factors at play here. It's not just based on the distance. Tesla Chan took a Robotaxi ride that covered the entirety of the current geofence in Austin from the southernmost point to the northernmost. That was roughly 11 miles and the cost was $13.70. And for the same ride in a Waymo at the same time, that would have been $16.79 for an Uber X. Translation, for that ride, the Robotaxi was 19% cheaper. Separately, he also shared these two screenshots showcasing the same trip and the pricing between the Tesla Robotaxi on the left and Uber on the right. The Robotaxi pricing was $3.12, whereas the cheapest Uber option, which was UberX, was $7.98, an Uber XL was $13.30, and a Comfort was $12.58. Which means from this one data point, the Robotaxi ride was over 50% cheaper than the most affordable Uber option. Further, that $3.12 rate for the Robotaxi was over 4 times cheaper than an Uber XL. Phil Beisel gave us another data point. From his house to the San Francisco airport is 45 miles. His cost would be $2.11 per mile if he were to take an Uber X, which is the most affordable option. As a reminder, these fares for Uber that you see in the app do not include a tip, so that would be in addition to all of these numbers. Then we have Peter, who was in LA over the weekend, and he was using Waymo to get around, and he gave us a chart of his 7 rides. The average distance for all of his trips was 4.1 miles, and the average cost per mile was $4.93. Now, this isn't really apples to apples because comparing Tesla's pricing in Austin to Waymo's pricing in LA, different cities, that's certainly going to change the equation. But my point is, if Tesla can come in consistently around that $2 per mile mark, they will indeed be undercutting their current competition. Some of you will recall this chart from ARK Invest they shared toward the end of last year. At the time, they said most ride-hail companies in Western markets were charging between $2 and $4 per mile. Again, using that very small sample size of Tesla's average cost per mile of $1.96, that would be this green line that's barely visible. But what ARK's research is saying is that if Tesla can get down to $1.10 per mile, it will increase the current size of the addressable ride-hail market to 1 trillion miles. And right now, the ride-hail market is roughly 1/10 of that. But this is what I'm saying, Tesla is already undercutting most of the competition. Cern Basher, who does some excellent analysis on Tesla, I'm guessing most of you are familiar with his work, he shared parts of his Robotaxi model, also using the average cost per mile for Tesla, which is right around $1.95. Now, he added in Tesla having a base fare of 75 cents and did his calculations slightly differently. But for purposes of this video, just know he's using the same average cost per mile as I showed earlier. He put together this chart, Tesla's Robotaxi network revenue at different utilization rates. Translation, even at 30% utilization, each Robotaxi could generate over $71,000 per vehicle per year. Then on the high side, at 65% utilization, each vehicle could be generating over $154,000 per vehicle per year. And then just rough costs for Tesla, if the Model Y cost Tesla about $40,000 and they're paying the safety monitor $60,000, that would be $100,000. So even with the safety monitor, there are scenarios where Tesla could still actually generate a profit. But yes, I know that leaves out many other parts of this operation for Tesla, one of the most obvious ones being the remote operators. And CERN also said that Uber's average cost per mile in Austin was about $2.85. For what it's worth, Ethan is using the Robotaxi network in Austin, and he thinks the dynamic pricing is $1 flat fee plus $1 per mile. And then CERN updated his model if that $1 flat fee and $1 per mile is indeed accurate. You can see how that would change this chart. On the high end, at 65% utilization, a Robotaxi could earn over $106,000 per vehicle per year. And that figure comes down from earlier because, of course, the cost per mile would be a lot lower if they did indeed have a $1 flat fee built into those rates. So look, this could all be outdated as of tomorrow, so I'm not going to go further into the weeds. Tesla is going to keep gathering data and continue to learn every day. Over time, Tesla will get a handle on how much cheaper they need to be to steal market share from Waymo and or Uber, and over the next few months, we'll see if Tesla runs the same pricing model in all cities, or if they're going to adjust it in places where the cost of living is higher. All that to say, this will be fluid, but it's a great start for Tesla and the first sign of actual program pricing, because we knew the flat fees were not going to last forever. And this dynamic structure right now proves our thesis that the competition really has no path to compete on price. But I will say, I would have expected Tesla to have more than 11 Robotaxis in the Austin fleet by now, and as far as we know, that is still the number. But on that note, Kyle is saying he saw 2 Model Y validation vehicles on El Camino in San Bruno, California, which is about a 20-minute drive to San Francisco. With this one, Tesla is backing up what it just said about how it's looking for supply outside of China. Tesla just signed a $4.3 billion agreement to source lithium iron phosphate cells from LG Energy, and these batteries will be made in US plants, but they will not be used in vehicles, so you know they'll be in energy storage systems, aka Tesla's Megapack. But I think many people were glossing over this data point. This agreement is not going to start until August 2027. And this agreement is supposed to last for 3 years, but there's an optionality clause for it to be extended. And it is worth noting the client is not officially Tesla, but that is widely expected to be the case. In the agreement, LG said there is an option to extend the supply period by up to 7 years and to boost volumes based on consultations with the customer. Now, to clarify a few things, these LFP cells from LG are going to come from their factory in Holland, Michigan. So no, these cells will not be coming from LG's factory that is in partnership with GM. LG's factory in Holland is not a joint venture with anybody else. It's wholly owned by LG. At that factory, the current annual production for LFP cells is about 17 gigawatt hours, and all of it is going to be dedicated to energy storage. There has been reporting that LG plans to bump up the output of this factory to 30 gigawatt hours, but that wouldn't be until the end of 2026. This factory in Holland, Michigan is now running full operations. They started mass production in May of this year. Just a little fun fact, if you see a total capacity for the Holland factory of closer to 22 gigawatt hours, that's because there is an additional 5 gigawatt hours of NMC battery production at that site. When it comes to the LFP division, there are 3 production lines, 2 of which are currently in operation, and the third is expected to launch by late 2025 or early next year. One other thing to note, these LFP cells from LG from this factory are going to be in a pouch form factor, whereas historically Tesla has mostly used prismatic cells in the Megapack. Now, if you've watched Electrified since the early days, number one, thank you, appreciate you more than you know, but number two, you may remember this. Replying to Jordan at the limiting factor, Elon said he generally agrees that the battery cell form factor debate is dumb, but Elon said the probability of thermal runaway is dangerously high with large pouch cells. Tesla strongly recommends against their use. Now, one, that was 4 years ago, so a lot can change. Number two, the industry has largely moved to LFP, which was not the case back in 2021. And generally speaking, LFP is a lot safer than something like NMC. And three, for energy storage, the use case is a lot easier and it stresses the cells less than something like an electric vehicle. Tesla clearly does not have any reservations about switching the Megapack to pouch cells, and there will likely be some benefits of that as well. They're likely to be lighter than using the prismatic form factor, but we should know by now Tesla has the agility and the engineers to make this transition, and the even bigger benefits are these cells might actually qualify for IRA incentives, which should help to drive down the cost of these cells. And not only that, but they're set to avoid any tariffs since they're going to be made in America. And yes, there's a world where Tesla could actually get some of those IRA manufacturing credits if they buy the cells from LG and then assemble them into packs itself. Meaning LG would likely get the $35 per kilowatt hour credit, and then Tesla could get the $10 per kilowatt hour credit. We don't know what the gigawatt hour number of cells Tesla will get from LG is going to be, but I can tell you that this factory in Holland for LG does supply other customers as well, including TerraGen and Delta, which means Tesla will not be getting the nameplate capacity of LFP production from this factory. But I would venture to guess it will indeed be getting the majority. And just to keep things straight, LG is currently constructing 8 different manufacturing facilities across the United States. Most of them are joint ventures with other companies like GM and like Honda, but they're also building a plant that's going to produce cylindrical cells in Phoenix starting next year. So this means Tesla will get about 8 gigawatt hours of cells from its own LFP factory, and we'll call it about 10 gigawatt hours per year now from LG in Michigan. That would be about 18 gigawatt hours of LFP cells per year coming from the United States for Tesla. And that would be roughly half of what Tesla would need to fully supply its Megapack factory in Lathrop. And don't forget, another Megafactory is going to come online next year, the one that's in Houston. So it's a really good start for Tesla, but they still have a long way to go to secure 100% of its LFP cells for the Megapack from the United States. But clearly, that is where things are trending, and that is definitely Tesla's goal. Speaking of Tesla decoupling, they're doing it not only from China with batteries, but also from Taiwan with semiconductors. On that point, Elon replied to Holmar saying both TSMC and Samsung are great companies. It's an honor to work with them. Phil Beisel said Samsung has no idea what they signed up for, allowing Elon to walk the line. But Elon responded saying they do. I had a video call with the chairman and senior leadership of Samsung to go over what a real partnership would look like. Use the strengths of both companies to achieve a great outcome. And I really think this is going to be overlooked. Tesla is basically going to have the ability to customize parts of the AI6 line at Samsung's factory, meaning it's going to have its hand and input directly into the fabrication of this chip. And that's without assuming any of the upfront cost or risk of creating a fabrication plant. So Tesla is going to benefit greatly from this setup, again, taking advantage of the leverage it had that I spoke about on Monday, and having this collaboration on American soil is the cherry on top. And Ming-Chi Kuo, a well-known analyst, said something similar. This Samsung deal represents a valuable opportunity to gain real-world foundry experience at an exceptionally low cost, something TSMC would never allow. It enables Tesla to enhance its chip design capabilities, particularly in manufacturability, while also gaining deeper manufacturing knowledge, which will give them more leverage in future negotiations with foundries. In the long run, Elon's businesses will only demand more advanced chips, so acquiring core manufacturing expertise becomes a strategic advantage. He said Tesla's AI6 chip is scheduled for mass production in 2027, but I'm guessing 2028. They are saying it's supposed to use Samsung's 2 nanometer node. And yes, I'm going back to nanometer, it just is a lot more natural for me. Sorry, James. And he concluded, if AI6 reaches mass production smoothly, chip design and manufacturing could become a core competitive advantage across Elon's businesses, enabling greater flexibility and lower costs. While Samsung may not fully catch up with TSMC in advanced nodes, it has at least discovered a new business model that actively involves customers in the manufacturing process. We got the weekly number for Tesla China. It came in at 10,700. Compared to the same week in Q2, that number was 10,300, so quarter over quarter, Tesla China is up 45.4%. Looking at the year over year number, Tesla China is down 9.5%, and zooming out year to date, Tesla China is down 5.2%. In case you did not get the software update yet with Grok and the new light sync feature, I can confirm it is pretty awesome. The Rave Cave experience is very enjoyable. Tesla Asia shared they just produced Megapack number 1000. That's over 4 gigawatt hours of battery storage since they started production earlier this year, and a majority of that is going to Australia. That coming from the director of Tesla Energy Asia Pacific. 1,000 megapacks is roughly $1 billion in revenue, and if you slap a 30% gross margin on that, that's $300 million. Now, obviously, a new factory is not going to be maximizing operating leverage, so those numbers don't apply like that. But just to give a sense of what things could look like when this factory hits its stride. But Megafactory Shanghai has already produced about 10% of its annual capacity in just a few months, so things have ramped faster than I was expecting. Ishan shared that Tesla's next showroom in Delhi will be opening soon at the IGI airport. Based on this image, it looks like it might be another few weeks. In a new Waymo blog post, they shared they will be expanding to Dallas. However, they're doing this in partnership with Avis. They said Waymo's coming to Dallas in 2026. Waymo will offer ride-hailing to the public through the Waymo app, and the fleet will be managed through a new strategic multi-year partnership with Avis. Avis brings decades of fleet management expertise, a track record of fast, efficient execution, and a commitment to adopting cutting-edge technology, which will help us scale the Waymo driver even faster. Avis will provide end-to-end fleet management services, including infrastructure, vehicle readiness, maintenance, and general depot operations. Translation: in Waymo's mind, they're thinking that the benefits of potential speed and efficiency to roll out this service faster are going to outweigh any of the costs, which primarily would be giving up profits, if they were to make any, to Avis. But they're not just doing this in Dallas. Avis said, together we're committed to making scaled autonomous mobility a reality for the people of Dallas, with plans to expand to additional cities in the near future. So Waymo has decided that building in-house fleet management is not going to happen, and they'd rather outsource that to move faster. Waymo is clearly focusing on allocating its budget to what it does best, which is developing its Waymo driver technology and the mapping and the safety, and then basically outsourcing everything else. So in the short term, this will save Waymo when it comes to infrastructure and operational costs, but in the long term, it's going to hurt them. But as we've been saying, will Waymo even have a long term? We'll see. Something to watch: if you go to the Tesla website and try to access one of the Model S or X configurators in certain countries across Europe, it will only give you the option to select vehicles in inventory, meaning the configurator for new vehicle orders for the Model S and X has been taken down from the website in European countries. Now the question becomes, is this temporary or permanent? Nothing official is out there yet, so we'll wait and see. Just in case you thought Chris from Dirty Tesla and his experience with the toll booth situation was a one-off, we got one more example of FSD handling a similar situation flawlessly. Now, yes, I hesitate to share these videos with dashcam footage that don't officially prove it was on FSD. However, in this case, it was a military man, so I'm assuming he's a man of his word. This is the type of thing I wish Tesla would do more of, kind of play along cultural movements. They just shared this video saying, our Seats robot also has great genes. If you have no idea what's going on here, just Grok, Sydney Sweeney, and American Eagle. Mercedes is going to pause deliveries of of its EQ electric vehicles in the United States and cut prices of new EQ models. This responding to slowing demand and high inventories at dealerships. The company also said it would cut the base price of the EQE and EQS sedan and SUV models in the US between 4 and 16%, starting with the 2026 model year. Tesla Chan shared a video where his Robotaxi ride did have a disengagement in a parking lot. And I will say these ones are so confusing for me. I was just giving my friend a ride on FSD the other day, and it was a road situation where it picked the wrong lane, and there were clear signs showing certain lanes that are left turn only, and in this parking lot you clearly cannot make a right turn. In this case, there was a sign above the stop sign and an arrow on the ground, so it really could not be more clear, yet the Robotaxi disobeyed. Elon quote posted something from Teslaconomics that was saying that Tesla has a chance to become a $25 trillion company. Elon said it's an immense amount of work, but possible. Tesla stock closed the day at $319.04, down 0.67%, while the NDX was up 0.16%. The volume was 17% below the average. Don't forget, check out AG1's next-gen formula linked below, as it should still be beneficial even if you're eating the rainbow. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.